Have you ever been told that you just think too much? That you're too sensitive or that you really need to stop worrying? Well, today, we're going to flip that whole idea on its head. We're going to dig into a really powerful concept. What if what we've been calling anxiety is actually a hidden, high-functioning trait? All right, let's just dive right in by talking about a feeling that I bet is super familiar to a lot of you. It's that feeling of having a brain that just seems to be, well, a little too much. And I mean everything. The tiny shift in your friend's tone of voice, the flicker of that fluorescent light that nobody else seems to notice, the, 1,000 different ways a simple plan could go sideways. It's just this constant, relentless stream of information. And honestly, it can be absolutely exhausting. You find yourself replaying conversations over and over, trying to decode some hidden meaning. You're mapping out every single worst-case scenario, just in case. You pick up on the smallest change in someone's mood, and at the end of the day, you're just wiped out by the sheer volume of your own thoughts. So for so many of us, this whole experience just feels like a flaw, doesn't it? A personal failing. We start to think there must be something wrong with our wiring, like there's a bug in our personal operating system that we've got to fix. But let's just pump the brakes on that idea for a second. Let's explore a totally different possibility for why your mind works this way. One that really shifts the entire perspective. Now, seriously, what if this high-resolution way of thinking, this tendency to notice absolutely everything, what if it isn't a malfunction at all? What if it's actually a high-end feature of how your brain is built? And this is where it gets really interesting when you see it laid out side by side like this. On one hand, we're taught to label it as anxiety, a disorder rooted in irrational fear, a flaw that needs to be fixed. But the reframe, this new idea, suggests hyper-awareness, a natural trait defined by high-resolution processing, a sign of real cognitive complexity. See the difference? It's not about being broken, it's about being built differently. So let's put a real definition on it. Hyper-awareness isn't just some catchy phrase. It's a way of describing a brain that processes the world with incredible depth. It doesn't just see the surface of things. It sees all the layers, all the connections, all the possible futures, and it sees them all at once. So how do you know if this is you? Well, let's look at the evidence. We're going to walk through 7 hidden signs of hyperawareness, and you can see if they sound familiar. That's right, 7. 7 specific clues, and each one is a signal that your brain might just be running this unique high awareness feature. Let's jump into the first one. Okay, sign number 1. You don't just skim the surface. Ever. When you learn something new, or even just have a casual conversation, you're connecting it to everything else you know. You're looking at it from all these different angles, and you're really thinking about it long after that moment is over. Oh, and this one is a biggie for so many people. You're that person who notices the tiny hesitation before someone answers a question. You see the micro expression that gives away how they really feel. You can feel the unspoken tension in a room. Basically, you're picking up on a whole layer of social data that most people completely miss. It's like your brain is a super powerful simulation machine. You just naturally run through all the possibilities, the good, the bad, the totally unexpected. And this isn't just worrying. It's a really complex form of strategic foresight, where you're constantly mapping out potential futures based on the data you have right now. How about this? Do certain sounds feel intensely loud to you? Do scratchy tags on clothes or super bright lights just drive you crazy? This isn't you being picky. A hyper-aware brain often processes sensory input with way more intensity, which can lead to that feeling of being easily overwhelmed by your surroundings. People with this trait tend to have an incredibly vibrant internal landscape. Your imagination is vivid, your daydreams are super detailed, and you've got this running internal monologue that's always analyzing, questioning, and creating. Let's be real, it is never quiet in there. This is such a classic sign. You make these amazing intuitive leaps, seeing patterns and connections between ideas that seem totally unrelated to everyone else. You're probably the person in a meeting who connects a random comment from last week to a problem that just popped up today, because you're always seeing the bigger picture. And finally, number 7, you just feel things deeply. You don't just sympathize with other people. It's like you can almost feel their emotions as if they were your own. And this isn't just about being emotional. It's a form of high-level data processing. You're understanding another person's internal state on a deeply intuitive level. Okay, so when you start putting all these signs together, a really clear picture starts to form, right? Let's talk about what all of this truly means. This is probably the most important takeaway of all. You are not running faulty software. You're just running a different, more sensitive, and way more complex operating system. And just like any OS, it has its own unique strengths and its own unique challenges. And this quote right here, it just nails it. All of this, the overthinking, the sensitivity, the constant analysis, it's not a sign that something is wrong. It is simply the natural, logical results of a brain that is fundamentally wired to process reality with more depth and more detail. Now look, that's not to say it's always easy. Of course it isn't. Constantly seeing all the potential risks and all the nuances that other people just happily ignore, yeah, that is stressful. But that exact same ability to see what's hidden is also an incredible strength. It's what makes you a thoughtful friend, a careful planner, and a really creative problem solver. So, I'll leave you with this question to think about. Instead of asking, why can't I just stop worrying? Try asking yourself this instead. What is my hyper-awareness trying to show me? What patterns, what risks, or what opportunities does your own personal superpower see that maybe nobody else can?